Within the Eye of Terror lie many heretical warbands devoted to one god of the chaos or other, sometimes all. But looking at these warbands further reveals a uniqueness not seen within most chapters of the Adeptus Astartes that has been veiled by the allegiance to the most vile parasite known around the galaxy. While those among the ranks of the World Eaters and many of their descendants harbor the stereotypical impression of mindless slaughters, the malignant spirits indulge in this though, even taking pleasure in it, a feeling which ostracizes them from other warbands devoted to Khorne. Tracing their origin leads to the Warden's Vigil, a chapter created to protect the Cadian Gate from internal conflict before the Great Rift destroyed it. They work together with other chapters to help in their own shared goal and to make sure the chapters defending the gate from Black Legion assaults could stay focused. Their history is made up of purge after purge after purge, but one stands out, a tragedy unlike no other in their history. Upon the world of Fortressil, the forces of Ilias Kren, chapter master of the Warden's Vigil, descended to purge a cult of Chaos Undivided that's destruction had been decreed vital in the continued operation of Cadia and its gate. When they arrived, their venture was treacherous, their every move noted and every decision remembered by the ears and eyes that listened and watched, kept until the time was right to deceive and sabotage. Iliath, captain of the First Company, was the brain of these eyes and ears. Decades before, Iliath had been corrupted by the forces of chaos. During a mission in late M38, he traveled to a world in which the population had worshipped the Emperor in a different way, yet one permitted by the Imperium, as so many other worlds do. They believed an ancient fortress was the resting place of the Emperor. Because of this, none of them dared to enter past their points of worship. However, this belief was exploited by the forces of chaos. A cult descended down, and when they returned, they said that they had the word of the Emperor himself. If not for the keen eye of the Warden's Vigil, the world would have fallen to chaos as this new cancer spread as warfare would upon the flesh of a mortal. When the Wardens arrived, they hunted every heretic down until they had reached the fortress, the origin point of this problem. Iliath took his marines, and as they waded through a maze of blood, disease, and pleasures formed into liquid, Iliath found the center. He was on his own, and as he went to burn the icons of chaos, he was compelled towards them. After this, Iliath rejoined his brothers, declaring the world cleansed, and they returned to their chapter. In truth, he had been captivated by the ruinous powers, Khorne specifically. Iliath laid low, keeping his allegiance a secret to all, but a few he had turned. As time passed, more and more joined him, leading him to form the Red Halos within the chapter, a seemingly innocent and simple action. When the time was right, they would all strike with the wrath of Khorne. The time came when they arrived at Fortressil. All of them could sense that the time was right. Iliath just needed to reveal them. Their purpose on Fortressil was to destroy a cult, however, it was aligned to Khorne. Not wanting to lose potential servants means to an end to boost his warband, he attempted to divert the Wardens. The attempt failed, and Iliath was forced to reveal himself. Kren was caught off guard, and most of the marines not aligned to Iliath were gunned down in seconds. This was how most of the fighting across the planet played out, and eventually the two sides escaped. One shaken, one proud. Escaping into the warp, the spirits found a prize unlike any other, a demon world to call their own. With the assistance of some hired iron warriors and word-bearers, Calbodok Adrock, a tech marine turned warpsmith, was able to construct a mighty Bloodveil fortress upon the newly christened Kraken, demon world of the malignant spirits. Bloodveil is confusing complex of spikes, flesh, blood, and weapon systems. It is divided into 8 sections. The entire fortress is a circle formation with the sections going inward as the number increases. Each 2 sections have their own sect, marines stationed to defend that section in case of an attack. In the middle of section 8 is a large tower housing all the malignant spirits' most important items. In its infancy, the fortress was attacked by the Black Deaths, a vile warband devoted to Nurgle. They hoped to turn the fortress into a cauldron of plagues and contagions. However, this would not come to pass. The malignant spirits drove them off, but not without losses. They reveled in this bloodshed and looked forward to all that would follow. The malignant spirits at this point in time harbored many former members of their chapter, but not much else. Through their immense number of campaigns, they grew and grew in number, and eventually they were raised into a mighty warband. However, they never achieved much notability. However, at the dawn of M42, Iliath destroyed their world in a fit of impatient outrage, sending them into a technological downward spiral, yet this would lead them to achieve more notoriety than they would ever get if their world had stayed alive. Most of the warband's culture was lost, and they abandoned the idea of taking pleasure in their slaughter. They had lost all of their equipment, and their weapons and armor were, at the start, ineffective and badly made imitations. However, as they became more well-known and their list of achievements grew, the warband was blessed by Khorne, turning their once useless weapons and armor into machines capable of great murder, or legendary and invulnerable shields against enemy attack. Most of them were, and are still, unknown to all but themselves. However, a number of famous individuals have been documented. Iliath, the warband's leader, is an obvious but good example. A herald of carnage and destruction, the sight of Iliath on even a small picture is said to send the planet's defense force into panic. He has led the warband for the entirety of its life, powered by Khorne's divinity to send the Imperium into a never-ending cycle of slaughter, and, in some cases, take in those who would devote themselves to a new god. In battle, he carries either the mighty Khorne-blessed axe Mortal Outrage or the demonically infused mace Warptear's Outreach, terror-inducing weapons of mass slaughter. On his right arm, he wears a brass band which is attached by 3 chains to the 3 colors on the heads of his unstoppable beast, Skullbringer, the loyal hunter of Khorne. He commands the entire warband from the Morse Incarnatum and directly oversees the most elite third of its forces. Abeus Iris, the Demon of Pain, is Iliath's right-hand man. He oversees everything Iliath cannot and follows his every command. Even though he is on the verge of demonhood, his loyalty stays, and his goal is to fasten the process of Iliath's ascension so that the warband might regain all that is lost. He clashes with Iliath's third, Calbadoc Adrock, for their opposing attitudes. While Abeus is intensely loyal and takes everything very seriously, Calbadoc has a cynical and mocking outlook, usually only saying something to offend someone. Abeus carries a massive axe, the Woestaker, and on his right arm he wears a piece of armor with 3 protruding claws. The Child of the Woes is empowered by the Warp, meant to imitate a lightning claw, used by Astartes wearing tactical dreadnought armor, Abeus' previous clothing. He commands his third of the warband from the Draco Sanguis. While Abeus is outwardly emotionless, he bears a great task that burdens his every moment. Breakai, the first captain of the Warden's Vigil, was his most challenging battle opponent, and Abeus came to respect him as his equal. Not just for his battle prowess, but for the similarities in their personality behind the worship of their respective entities. He placed the first captain higher than even the chapter master Ilias Kren, mainly because he had never gotten the chance to duel him. Abeus seeks an opponent to live up to Breakai's legacy, the one that he has not found yet. The previously mentioned third, Calbadoc Airdrock, is the resident Lord Discordant and all things hateful man of the Malignant spirits. He travels around on his cutling Hellstalker, Steelrender, looking for loyalist marines to spit on or fellow berserkers to criticize. Within the infernal underbelly of whatever ship he is on, he is hard at work on many hellborn designs, whether that be a new weapon for his lord or a new type of demon engine. He commands his third of the spirits from the Raptor Calvariae. His greatest achievements have been the Blood Knights of Khorne, powerful and cruel demon engines that appear as heretical knights, but bear 2 chain weapons on one side and the enormous arm of a bloodthirster with axe to boot on the other. They are created by the forges of his flagship, demons bound within and then transported to the outside where they are chained on the hull. During a battle, the Raptor Calvariae will break off from the attack and descend towards the planet's surface. When it has lowered far enough, the engines will be unchained and unleashed on the planet below as the ship returns to the battle above. This allows for the deployment of Blood Knights to act as effective surprise attackers or to be useful extensions of a pre-planned tactical maneuver. While the Raptor Calvariae always appears to be in severe danger, it is never in any more danger than it would already be in, considering who commands it. Malignant Spirits hosted a great many specialists during their time as a standard warband. However, most of these were dissolved entirely or merged into the standard collective force by the time the Everwar Age, the era of the degraded Malignant Spirits proclaimed by Iliath, began. All other Krakens, Warpspawn meant to guard the outermost section of Kraken, Section 0, were banished or killed when Iliath shattered Kraken, and the demonically infused armor of the demon tanks along with the demon engine support had merged into Galbadok's force. The only specialist force left, not including the Honor Guards, was the Dragon King, warp talents that struck through dimensions assisted by Helldrakes. After Kraken was destroyed, the main spirit's body assumed they had either deserted or died out. A few hundred years later, far beyond the reaches of the Great Rift into the heart of the Imperium Nihilus, Iliath caught word of warriors cloaked in blood, with armor colored in a striking red-orange, with warp-colored shoulder pads, who wore the armor of Warptalon Astartes, descending from their Helldrake mounts to tear enemy worlds with their claws. Abeas believed it to be a warp-made trick of time. However, Iliath was adamant in his belief that this force were the Dragonkin, untouched by time trickery, returning to strike at the Imperium after biding their time. The Dragonkin mostly acted on their own until they found the Malignant Spirits during a battle that they were sure to lose. Invigorated to save their rediscovered brothers, they swooped in with warp talons and the berserkers they had with them during the destruction, leaping from the Helldrakes that tore through the warp. They descended upon the enemy lines, catching them completely off guard. The Malignant Spirits pushed through, and the two forces easily destroyed the disorganized enemy force. After the battle, Iliath reconnected with the leader of the Dragon King, Crustus Fargast, and the two discussed many things throughout a single night. At dawn, the Malignant Spirits set off in their warp ships, and the warp talons of the Spears of the Spirits warband returned to the warp. During the night's discussion, Iliath gave Crustus full control over the forces he had commanded for the few hundred years they were separated, and formed the Spears of the Spirits, a warband who acted similarly to how a vassal of a larger warband might act. The Spears of the Spirits were an extension of the Malignant Spirits. They acted all throughout the hunting grounds of the Imperium Nihilus, deeming the Terran-connected Imperium to be too big of a target for a force that acted as they did. While the Malignant Spirits would ravage across and around the Great Rift, killing everything that could be killed and raising everything that could be raised, the Spears leaned more towards the use of stealth and terror tactics to get their way. The number of talents the whole warband harbors is unknown, but they have several small groups of 100 to 400 talents operating across Imperium Nihilus, with their numbers being more fixed than the Malignant Spirits' ever-fluctuating amount of troops. Their more covert approach allows them to resupply by raiding Imperial and rival Chaos worlds, stocking up on new and shiny armor and weapons and sometimes even new Astartes. They resupply on Helldrakes from Dark Mechanicum and rival warband worlds along with direct reinforcement from Galbadok's forges. The Malignant Spirits have strong ties with more than just their subordinates. They have gathered two major allies during their campaign across the stars. The Trial, a warband devoted to Khorne who slaughters those who are unworthy in silence, and the Horrors and Haunted, a warband birthed from the defenders of Barthirle, the Warden's homeworld, after it was absorbed by the Great Rift. Openly, they are devoted only to Khorne, however their fixation on torture and copious dismemberment has led most to label them as Chaos Undivided. A more minor ally in their Everwar Age are the Zealots of Isfred, a Tzeentchian warband who is more knowledge-obsessed than any other. The Malignant Spirits have a rough history with the Trial pre-alliance. When the Malignant Spirits were searching for a new home, they inadvertently stumbled onto the Harbinger of Wrath, a mighty space hulk that greenskins and Tyranid bioforms called Home. Amongst these creatures, a more quiet resident waited for their calling. Adrock had warned Ilieth before their landing, but he did not listen. When they came across black-armored and red-helmeted warriors of Khorne, they engaged immediately, taking many skulls. Eventually, the rest of the trial awoke and joined the battle. Their overwhelming force pushed the spirits back to their ships, which promptly opened fire on the Space Hulk. As soon as every marine that could or chose to escape did so, they ran into the warp. The trial would not let their prey escape so easily, for the self-destruction illustrated by the shattering of Kraken represented a weakness that could not persist under Khorne or Chaos and needed to be weeded and cut. This chase would cause slaughter on an uncountable number of worlds. The spirits would accelerate their path of destruction to keep the trial from catching them, and the trial would mop up any resistance left behind with ease. This relationship would come to a head during the slaughter on Sinota, a battle that would prove legendary to any Chaos warband who heard of it, and a battle that would end in a complete Chaos victory. The Warden's Vigil had been patrolling across the Great Rift, searching for the Malignant spirits so that they could bring an end to the terror wrought across the Imperium. As they had finished screening the ice world Sinota, a fleet of innumerable Chaos ships broke from warp space. Anticipating a clash, the Wardens opened fire without even figuring out who they were. That would only come when the Raptor Calvaria descended and the first drop pods landed. With the sudden arrival of the Horrors and Haunted and the trial, the Wardens were obliterated, marking a final end to the Malignant spirits' past. Their future, dominance over the Great Rift through terror, and becoming a nemesis to the Great Knights of Leren. Their past was the only thing that could stand in their way, and now that they are free, the galaxy is at their mercy, for the battle is theirs and the blood is yours.